Alright, good morning everybody. Another video today. This is, I think, the fourth video of the day. Thank you to our friend X Morningstar X for suggesting the subject, what to talk about. I think I thought I made videos specifically responding to this, because this is not the first time that you requested this. Although I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when I made those videos, they got erased from my phone. I don't know if I ever posted them or not, so I want to apologize. I'm not ignoring you. Although I might have, I don't remember all the videos. I just talk and I post videos. I don't edit. I don't do anything. These are just, you get what you get, right? You're lucky if I pause the video to blow my nose, right? Sometimes I did that today, so I think I only blew my nose on camera once today. But I'm driving. What do you expect from me, you know? So, and this is not an easy drive, but it's okay. Wonderful for you to know. And the question is, how do I believe that someone could be? Do I believe someone could be an atheist and be moral? What do you want from me? And then, what do I think that atheists are missing in life? It's a double-edged sword here, but I think it's also related in some ways to the subject that I touched on in the last video, and in another video that I uploaded but have not made public, and nobody's watched it yet. And I'm debating whether or not I should make that video public, on the subject of the memra, the term memra, particularly in the Targum Onkelos, and the use of this term memra, and some curious times and ways that the Targum Onkelos uses this word memra, which just means word. And it's pretty much the equivalent to the Greek logos, and in modern English, they talk of the word. And what does that mean? And in other religions, how they say the word became flesh, and what does that mean? From a Jewish perspective, so let's move on a little bit. So I remember something, that my aunt told me, my late Aunt Ray, who was a scholarly individual. I think she got her master's degree, maybe even her bachelor's, maybe even her doctorate, I'm not sure. I think when she wrote her master's thesis, she wrote about me, actually. Or it was some college paper, and she would give me her college books when she was done with them. And I was a little kid, but I like to feel important, I like to read, even if I didn't really know what I was reading. And I would, read, even, open up college books and try to read a little bit, since I was a small child. And it's interesting how in my adult life, I kind of prefer high school textbooks to college textbooks. I'd rather read a nice high school history book. But that's neither here nor there. But I remember she passed away when I was quite young, Aunt Ray, my father's sister. She wasn't Jewish. She was, raised Catholic. I don't know how religious she really was. She had a Catholic funeral, if I remember. And she had a difficult life. But Aunt Ray, she once told me, something that philosophers will say, is that God created man, but man created God. And also we can say that God created man in his own image, and man created God in his own image. And that can perhaps be connected to what we were discussing about this word memra. How very curiously in the first aliyah of Parshas Vayishlach, Yikara and Memra are found time and time again in the Targum Onkelos, particularly Memra. And the most curious part is when it says, "V'hevi Memra d'Hashem li'lalakah," that the word of the Lord will be my God. I mean, we can understand the other anthropomorphisms that Onkelos wanted to avoid by using Memra and Yikara. But this one, that the Lord will be my God, is translated as the word of the Lord will be my God. Again, it's to say that to develop a relationship with God is also an anthropomorphism in the philosophical sense, but we can develop a relationship with God in the logos sense. And although that's a primary Christian idea, it comes from Jewish sources, both traditional Jewish sources like Onkelos and non-traditional Jewish sources like Philo or Philo, depends on how you pronounce it. Most people say Philo. Philo-Judaeus. Philo is not part of our erstwhile canon, for lack of a better term. It's, something that's, treasured by the church and the church fathers and was preserved by the church fathers. And really not, it's in the same boat with Josephus and some of these others. So, in the prison where I work, they have a volume, The Complete Works of Philo. That's in the Protestant library. It's not in the Jewish library. And so the Complete Works of Josephus are in the Protestant library, not in the Jewish library, in the prison chapel. But Philo has his theology of the logos. And it seems that it's difficult to understand, and I've never really studied it. I only have like a Wikipedia level knowledge about this stuff. And we find the same thing, I think it was, in the Targum Onkelos, you know, and also in a certain sense, all kinds of Kabbalistic literature. And philosophical literature, we have these different ideas. You know, you'll have people make statements like, there is no such thing as Jewish theology, and things like that, which are just ignorant. You know, I mean, there's a Shir Koma, and obviously means something philosophical. Rambam thought it was a forgery, as did as did Rav Sanya Gaon. And yet the secular scholars, Gershon Sholem, who's a very problematic person, not from our Mishvan Inzer, you know, Gershon Sholem, he said that that he was convinced that the Shir Koma was authentic from the time of the Tanoim. Whether or not it was actually written by Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Shmuel, that's where there's to discuss, but his understanding was that it was authentically ancient, which obviously is going to put a rationalist like the Rambam into a fit. But we know, of course, that the Ravid said that there were ones greater than the Rambam who disagreed with the Rambam in this area. And perhaps he's talking about Rabbi Akiva. And we know already in Chazal that Rabbi Akiva was always criticized for his anthropomorphism, and many of the Tanaim would say, Akiva, stay away from Agadata, that's not your place, stay with Halacha, that's you're the Sar Halacha, you're not the Sar of Agadata. And so this tension existed already in the time of Chazal. It was there. So we have to recognize, you know, where we're coming from, where we're going. We're gonna have to put the GPS on soon. Get out of here. And all these things, these are complicated issues to discuss, and we all quite too often think that we have the easy answers. Pretty much do, because most people have accepted Rambam's view, and we should accept the Rambam's view, and I accept the Rambam's view. But we also have to be intellectually honest about that the history of it, and that it's not so black and white the way we think, and that's where these other religions came from, and they came from authentically Jewish sources. To a certain extent, but there is a certain point where they diverged from Judaism, and they're no longer Judaism. But the question is, what point is it? And that's something. But is that's still not answering your question, which I thought I had answered in another video. Can a person be moral without professing a God? I believe, personally, that if a person is truly moral at all times, even if they claim to be an atheist, they are not an atheist. This is my opinion. It's not worth anything, because it's just my opinion. Meaning to say, the idea of Yiras Elokim, where Avraham Avinu said, Rak ein Yiras Elokim b'makom hazeh, that Abraham was afraid of the Philistines because he saw there was no fear of God in this place. And what does that mean? The Philistines, we know, worship many gods, but they were mockers and scoffers. They were not, so they were not atheists, but they didn't take anything seriously. We know from Scripture that they liked to make fun of everything, all the time. In the book of Judges, in the book of Samuel, the Philistines made fun of everything. They did not take anything seriously. And the thing is, the Jewish people like to have a sense of humor. We like to tell jokes, but there's a time and a place to take things seriously. And the Philistines were people who did not take things seriously, and so therefore they had no morals, even though they believed in gods. And even they were, after coming into contact with the Jewish God, they were scared of this God. And at first, it's interesting in 1 Samuel, the story of how the ark was taken away because of the sins of Israel, and how the Philistines were, on one hand, the Israelites were being punished, and on the other hand, for their sins. On the other hand, the Philistines were encountering a God like they never encountered before, that was more powerful than their gods. And they began with their reference to the Jewish God as, in the plural, as powerful gods. And afterwards, after their encounter, and after they returned the ark with the golden hemorrhoids and the golden mice and all these things, and after they saw their God was, their idols were knocked down, they referred to our God in the singular and no longer the plural. The word Elohim remained Elohim. That's not necessarily plural. That's, just like deer or fish, can be singular and plural in the same sense. So too, you know whether or not the word Elohim is singular or plural by the words around it. If it says who, then it's singular. If it says haim, it's plural. Right? If it says it or they, that's how you know if it's singular or plural. But like I was saying, if someone is truly moral and ethical, and consistently so, that's going to be because they believe they are aware of something beyond themselves. Now, do they necessarily profess our God the way we do? No. But they recognize that there is something more than just what we see, even if it means, a devotion to society, and recognizing that society needs to be a certain way to function, and recognizing that there's something more than just, us. You recognize, and that's, back to like Rabbi Nachman said to the atheist, the God you don't believe in, I don't believe in either. Meaning, and how I often say, God isn't the guy on the cloud in the Gary Larson cartoons. I was listening to an old recording that Rabbi Bart Sadok had made, and he reposted recently. It's called, and it's several years old, and you can tell that his style has changed yet again, which is beautiful and good. He's a person who's constantly growing. Rabbi Bart Sadok said that, there's a threat of a jihad from a new religion, not a jihad of Islam. Islam's an old religion. But the jihad of the secularists, of the atheists, particularly the my way or the highway, fundamentalist atheists who want everyone to go along with them, which is connected back to what we've been discussing all along. There's a lot what to talk about here, but I need to put my GPS back on soon. But so do I believe that someone can be truly, consistently ethical without believing God? I believe a person can believe in God and not be ethical. But at least, generally, hopefully the believer has as we discussed in the last videos, has a standard to live up to. And so even if they don't live up to the standard, they recognize that they have a standard. That's Aleph, that's the first step. And that's an aspect of ethics. But then, like we told the story of Bertrand Russell, who he was an ethicist, but he wasn't ethical. And he said, well, was Einstein a triangle? Or the way I would have said it, was Einstein a mathematical equation? It goes back to this idea of when the Christians say the Word became the flesh. And Rabbi Bart Sadok always points out the mistake the Christians make is they think that this refers to only one individual, when in fact anybody who really truly devotes themselves to Torah, to the Word, to the Memra, to the Logos, the Word becomes the flesh. You become a walking Torah. And to make the mistake, in Judaism we reject the idea that this refers to only one individual in history. Now, all the other aspects of the Christian faith do not thereby follow. It's not a direct correlation that everything the Christians believe about one particular individual can be applied to anybody else. No, we reject that in Judaism, totally. But the point is that when John is saying the Word became the flesh, the Logos became the flesh, that's something that anybody can acquire by truly transforming their lives. And so Bertrand Russell did not. And it doesn't have, and although as much as what we are taught that this is something special about Torah because it is the Word of God, is it theoretically possible that someone can become a living embodiment of the teachings of a Bertrand Russell in the way that Bertrand Russell himself didn't do it? In theory, perhaps. But it remains a theory until it's proven. Right? So, I certainly encourage the non-believer to find meaning in life, and to find ethics, and to find fellowship. That's the things that we have to compartmentalize also. Meaning, the discussion that I had about atheist chaplains, and I made videos about this, and a lot of people were shocked about it. What are you talking about, atheist chaplains? And I believe that atheism should be treated like every other religion. I want to make a level playing ground where atheism is treated like every other religion. But then when you bring that up, the atheists are like, no, it's not a religion. But it is a religion. It's a religious view. And in some ways, you can find the trappings of religion in an atheist society. And I think, so then that's the question is, if someone has all the trappings of a religious community and an atheist community, which exists. You have the Society for Ethical Culture and other similar groups where the people get together pretty much like they're going to church, but they don't talk about God. And I've discussed before how there's this natural tendency of human beings in their DNA to seek religion. People love religion. As much as people run away from religion, they hate religion, they also love religion. Naturally, people want religion. That's part of our human DNA. That's part of what it means to be a human being. To the point where some say that we shouldn't be called Homo sapiens, but rather Homo spiritualis. Meaning we want to put meaning in life. And there was something about that the cavemen would bury their dead and draw pictures on caves. They had their religion. There's something innate in the human spirit that strives for something outside of itself. Not always just by fear of the unknown and so forth, and trying to explain things. That's the way so many anthropologists would like to say is, the religion developed because they were scared and they didn't know, maybe it's something else. Maybe that's not how and why. I don't see that aspect of fear necessarily in the cave painting cults, right? There's more of the aspect of beauty than fear. How do we find these balances? So, and I talk about how certain world religions today that were founded to be the opposite of religion are religious in nature now, when they really were not initially such. I don't think this is the right way to go. the Buddhists and the Sikhs, many centuries between these two religions. The Buddhist religion, one of the older religions, older than Christianity. Sikh religion, one of the newer religions, very recent, 500-600 years ago. And the differences, both of these religions kind of being founded to be anti-religious in a positive sense, and developing into religions. Pretty much all the things that they were against, to the point where, someone I went to school with he told me, he's Sikh and he's not religious, and I wanted to tell him, the Guru Nanak probably was more like you than he is like the guys who wear the turbans and the beards today. The Guru Nanak also wasn't religious. And yet developed as a religion because people want religion, to the point where in Canada, a fight broke out, not a fight, but a disagreement broke out in the Sikh Gurdwara, I think it's called, the Sikh temple, where the discussion was, are we allowed to sit on chairs? It's too cold to sit on the floor, especially for the old people. Can we let the old people sit on chairs, or can just everybody sit on chairs? So these are all things to discuss. And so that's the question when you have someone who is an atheist, but lives a religious lifestyle. That's the question. Can you... I don't know where I'm going. Definitely going the wrong way. I gotta turn this off. The Society for Ethical Culture, where you go to the church and you hear a sermon and you sing some hymns, you have fellowship time, but it's not about God, it's about humanism, culture, ethics. I think that's just the nature of human beings, to want something like that, and so there is a place, I think, for atheist chaplains, just as there's a place for Odinist chaplains, and as a prison chaplain, I'm not going to tell the Odinists, no, you can't have a chaplain, so and I think also the fact is that Christianity has made the world a better place, to the point where the Odinists and the atheists and the Hindus and all these other groups, this is where I'm going, because this is where the zoo is. I love this zoo, the Hershey Park Zoo. Yeah, here's the entrance to the Hershey Park Zoo. Entrance, exit only, do not enter. Okay. So, alright, I really have to put the GPS on now, because I don't know where I'm going. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you all later, okay? Wait a second. I'm going this way, right? By the Chocolate Workers Union. Always look for the union label, right? Chocolate Workers Local 464 AFL-CIO. I gotta put on the GPS though, this is enough. Alright, maybe we could talk more about this. I'm just This looks like the right way. I mean, I've been here before. This Lutheran church sign that looks like a Hershey Park sign. All right. I think Luther liked chocolate also. I mean, he was German, so. All right. Well, I don't think I've really answered your question, but I babbled on for 36 minutes. I think it's time to end this video, put on the GPS, and then we can figure out where we are from here. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, hit that bell button, and we'll see you all later. I'm sorry I didn't really answer your questions, but I guess let me just bring it down. I think that if somebody is truly ethical, they are doing so for the sake of the true God and not the man-made God. And I believe that, an atheist is missing the same thing that a Christian is missing, or a Muslim is missing, or a Reformed Jew is missing. That there is something I believe inherent in Torah and Orthodox Judaism that I believe is the truth. But I also believe that God is great enough that that it's not for everybody, and the Scripture says that I even though that's one of the things that the Septuagint didn't want to translate, but it says I apportioned out the different gods to the different nations. That there's the one true God, but the God designed a world with many different religions. God designed a world with diversity, and people are free to come and join what I believe to be the true religion. But we can also recognize that other people have something that they're trying to find in life. Oh, this sign says Elizabethtown. This is where I'm going. I think I can manage this. Yeah, I know where I am. All right. I think I can do this whole thing without putting on the GPS. Should I risk it? But 38 minutes is still a long video. Nobody's going to watch this. But that's the question that we have to approach here. What are we... So I think a person can, by the grace of God, be ethical without believing in God in theory. That if someone makes a decision that they're going to be ethical, that is like a fulfillment of like what Scripture says, know God in all your ways and He will make your path straight. That knowing God doesn't necessarily need to be a profession of a theology or faith, but an acceptance, meaning Yiras Elokim is that Abraham was talking about when he said Rak ein Yiras Elokim b'makom hazeh. That Yiras Elokim, that awareness of God, that fear of God, is not a theological thing, but he was afraid that he was going to get killed because there's no fear of God. It is morality. Fear of God is morality, is ethics. It's not theology. Theology, I believe, to be important and to be an aspect of that. But it's more about how you live than what you believe. Even though I do believe that it's important what you believe, but I think the way you live is more important in a certain way. whereas what you believe is also more important in a certain way. They're both more important in different ways. It's not either or. It's really both. It's like my Rosh Hashiva, who learned by Rav Victor Miller, and he grew up Orthodox, and he said that until he met Rabbi Miller, he was observant, but he was not religious. And Rabbi Miller made him religious. And in a similar way, I remember when going to Uman, and there was one guy on the bus who was so upset that we didn't go to the Rebbe B'Zusha. But then he said something, he said, "I'm not religious." And I said, "No, you're not observant, but you're definitely religious. Or else you wouldn't be schlepping to Uman, and you wouldn't be crying that we didn't get to go to Rebbe B'Zusha." And how he said, "I don't know these other guys, I know Rebbe B'Zusha." So maybe he has Ahavas Hashem, but he doesn't have Yiras Shamayim. Right? When we talk, if someone has Yiras Shamayim, we're talking that they're frum. We're talking that they're observant. We're talking that they do what you're supposed to do. They live a moral and ethical life. And this guy was also moral and ethical. He just wasn't ceremoniously religious, but he had his ethics, he had his morals. He had his way. It's like a question came up on a Facebook group they don't look at too often, and that day I was looking at it, and someone said it was a dialogue between off the derech and from people, and they said one person asked, why does it make more sense to go off the derech for an intellectual reason, and it's put down if you do so for an emotional reason? And I didn't really write my answer there, but my feeling is that the emotional reason is in a way more apropos than the intellectual reason, because the intellectual reason is hubris. Oh, you discovered something the Rambam didn't understand. Meaning, what a great genius I discovered. What an honor it is to meet such a great genius who figured out that there's no God. When Maimonides and Pascal and all these others across whoever, all the different great philosophers of all the different religions, they all believed in God. And yet you and a few other moderns didn't believe in God. But then it comes to, like we discussed, the Buddhists, it doesn't matter whether there's a God or not. That type of question, that type of approach, it's a Buddhist approach. It's not a Jewish approach, because in Judaism it certainly matters whether there's a God or not, but there's no question whether there's a God or not in authentic Judaism. There might be questions about the nature of God, but there's no questions about the unity of God and the existence of God. But today is Kirk Douglas's 103rd birthday, maybe 103rd, 104th, something like that. Kirk Douglas said when he was a little kid, he had his bar mitzvah, and he heard about the Akedas Yitzchak, and he said that's just ridiculous. He dropped religion because he had a childish view of religion. And then when he was an old man, he started to put on tefillin, started to get a little bit into Yiddishkeit, didn't become frum. I don't know if he still puts on tefillin. But he realized he was a fool when he was 16 years old or whatever, or 14 years old. And how many of us, we grow up, and our views in other things, in politics, in food, in music, and everything in the world matures with us as we age, and we have a different perspective than we had when we were 14 years old. But how many people, both religious and secular, have the same view of religion when they're 40 years old as they had when they were 14 years old? If you're not growing, you know the rest. It's an Amish paradise here. Look at this. So, those are the issues. Meaning, a person can be ethical, have what we would at least colloquially call fear of God, without having any theology and even professing atheism. But their profession of atheism is mere lip service. Because if they are truly ethical and moral, then they're not truly atheist. They might profess to be atheist. They might give lip service to atheism, but there's something in them that knows that there's something outside of them, even if it's just society. And nothing supernatural. It doesn't have to be supernatural. Our God is a very natural God. The gematria of Elohim is the gematria Hateva. Our God is supernatural also, but he's natural and supernatural at the same time. The Shem Havaya is the supernatural aspect of God, and the Shem Elohim is the natural aspect of God. And that's why we speak of Yiras Elohim, fear of God. That aspect of fear and law and judgment and natural law is essentially related to the sphere of Gvura, and it's essentially natural because the sphere of Gvura is essentially natural, whereas the spheres of Chesed and that's why it says Bereshis bara Elohim, in the beginning God created, instead of in the beginning Shem Havaya created. The God of G-O-D, of Elohim, is a natural God. He is the God of nature. When we speak of nature and nature's God, he is the natural God of the atheist, of the ethicist. And don't forget that the ancient Romans called the Christians and the Jews atheists for not believing in a visible God. But we say V'haya Memra, and that answers back to this question of what we found in Unclus, this strange terminology, V'haya Memra Dashem Lilakah, that the word of God, the word of the Lord, will be my God. That we recognize that as religious people, we recognize the supernatural aspect that's hidden within the nature, and that nature's God is indeed a supernatural God, and that's what Jacob was promising, and he was hoping that his children would emulate, as Rashi explains. That when he says that the Lord will be my God, he's asking that all his children should be from and so that's what the non-religious, the person who is outside of Torah, really, whatever your religion, religious people, non-religious people, everything, that's what they're missing, is the true memra. And so they have a different memra. They have a different logos, some of them. God bless them. Christians, they're doing okay for the most part. And so they have their memra. And their memra is rooted in our Torah. So I think I'm going to make it without the GPS because I know exactly where I am now. Done this trip enough times. And so, but that's the thing. Are they really missing? They're missing something that they absolutely need? No, they're just missing something that I have. And do I know I really have? You know, they have something else that they have. I don't think anybody is really missing God in their life. I think everybody has a relationship with God in a certain way. But it's a one-way relationship, and when you don't have the theology and so forth, what you're missing is the two-way relationship. Is this a no turn on red, or is this? I don't know. I'm just gonna wait. I'm early, so I hope that answers the question. You know. That's because I don't know if I really have a good answer to your question. But for the most part, generally speaking, you know, yes, in theory, you can be ethical without professing a theology. But it's, in practice, I believe, not very easy. It's hard enough when you have religion in your life and you have a belief system that's based on something solid. Whereas if, you know, where do you get your ethics from? What's to stop you from changing your ethics when you want to? What was there to stop the Nazis from changing the laws to, you know, to say that, you know, just merely being in the state of being Jewish is a capital offense? And here I am. I made it. Only putting the GPS on to know that which exit I had to go on. So from the exit, I mean, I turned it off. I can make it the whole way here without the GPS. I just really put the GPS on to see what time I'd be arriving, to see if I had time to go to the mikveh. And here I am, 7 minutes early. Now I can sit and learn a little bit. So, you know, because, you know, you can have the trappings of religion, which I think are more universal, without belief, but still, what's to keep someone there, you know? And then there was like a story my wife told me she read about someone who raised their children atheist, and then their daughter is going to a Quaker meeting house, and what's going on? I raised her to be an atheist, and now she's going to a church? What is this? And I mean, I can understand someone who has a professed religion talking like that, right? But why would the atheist care so much whether or not their child followed in their footsteps as an atheist? Unless they really believed in something. They really believed, and most likely what it was is back to what I said. Which is it? It's that Um, it's that emotional aspect of why someone leaves religion. If a person can get so upset that their daughter is going to church because they're an atheist, and they raise their child to be atheist, that's a sign that the reason why they're atheist is not an intellectual one, but an emotional one. And that I can understand a lot more. You know, someone who, that's not an issue of hubris, that's an issue of being human being, and you got hurt by religious people who did horrible things to you, and people with beards and long coats, and they did something bad, or were people with collars or whatever it is, they did something they knew they were not supposed to do. That's you know, then you have a valid emotional reason, and that I can understand. And someone who got hurt, I mean, I'm happy it didn't happen to me, but it happens to a lot of people, and I pray it shouldn't happen to anybody else. But I think a lot of it, though, some of these stories are exaggerated. I don't think all these stories are true. I think some of them are true, and some of them are just made up because of this my way or the highway secular jihad. So it's a little bit of both. But certainly if someone would, God forbid, do something like that, they have to realize it's really bad. And the damage that they do to the community and to society and to their victims, it's horrible. There we have it. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. And maybe that person really didn't believe. That's the thing. They didn't have Yoris Elkim to go that far. But we talked about that in the previous video. What can bring someone that far? That they go so deep because of their slavery and their addictions. And that's why, like what we said in the 6th chapter, Pirkei Avos, we all know what it says. There's no one who's truly free but the one who is involved in Torah, meaning to say that that's where freedom comes from, is from Torah. And without Torah, we don't have true freedom. Al tikre cheres elacheres. Right? Alright, well, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. We'll see you all later. There we go. Alright, I have a fork and a knife in here. There's a fork. Let's leave one fruit snacks here for later. And one maybe we bring with us. Alright, please like, share, and subscribe, comment. And we'll see you later. Take care.